Well, let's talk about the welterweight division. There's some possible significant developments. Ennis signed a multi-extension with PBC. There's a possibility of Barrios and Pacquiao. What are your thoughts, and how does that affect your plans that you have for Boots Ennis going forward?
Well, they're going to have to do something with the likes of Ennis. I mean, the great thing about the welterweight division for Boots now is he's the star of the welterweight division. Like, tell me another star in the welterweight division. There isn't.
Well, it depends if Pacquiao comes back.
Well, he's not going to beat Barrios, is he? So
that's a real possibility.
There's absolutely no chance in the world that he beats Barrios. I mean,
Barrios has been beat multiple times.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Look, Pacquiao he's still top 20, top 30 guy in the world, but he couldn't beat Barrios. But listen, if he does, fantastic. But right now, the biggest name in the division by a long way is Boots. So we have to try and get him the big fights. Ennis is a guy that you have to cash out with all due respect. Like, you can't spend money on Ennis. You have to put him in a big fight that makes you money. So guys like Barrios, guys particularly like Ennis, will be looking for the cash out fights. The problem Boots is going to have, especially if he looks sensational tomorrow night, is everyone's going to want mad money to fight him. We've been there before, we know how it works. But, I think that I really like Madrimov's chances against Crawford, but Crawford is obviously a big favourite. Crawford against Boots is the best fight in boxing. I mean, unquestionable. But before Boots goes to 54, I would really like to see him unify at 147, and that will be a tough job for us, but one that you'll see tomorrow night we can deliver with a crowd like this.
Hey Eddie, it's Dom from the Boxing Voice, and you mentioned Crawford. Boots has had a reputation for being under Crawford's wing shadow, and the other guys, Errol Spence. Being that you still think that's the best matchup in boxing, do you think that's going to happen sooner than later for Boots, or are you going to take your time with him?
Honestly, the great thing about Boots is he's never been spoiled. Like, he will fight anyone. Honestly, he'll fight Crawford, he'll fight Virgil Ortiz, he'll fight Barrios, he'll fight Spence, he'll fight, and they're great fights to be made. That's our job now. We've got to go out and make those fights happen. I know that His Excellency is a big Jaron Boots Ennis fan. We met with him in New York. I think he will be looking to make some big fights for him because he wants the best fighters in the world on his cards, and Jaron Boots Ennis is that. I think when he tunes in tomorrow night, he'll see that. But yeah, I think the key to a lot of these guys, when I look back at like Demetrius Andre, I feel like he was a fighter with exceptional talent, but unfortunately didn't have the commercial value to make the big fights because everybody didn't want to fight him and they wanted so much money to fight him. But when we went to Providence, still did a good gate, but it was like 6,000. If you're doing 13, 14,000 in here for Avanesyan, you know that if you're doing Ennis or those kind of guys, you're going to do 21,000. And it's going to create a big gate. You can pay the money for those guys to come. So that's the thing that I like, is that Boots commercially now, and I think he'll do a big number on DAZN. There's massive interest in him around the world. But we've only just started. We've only signed him 4 months ago. So, it's a great start.
Johnny Boy Boxing with FightHype. Eddie, how long will you keep Boots at 147? Is there anyone that can really test him at that division? Won't you have to move him to 154 to look for Spence, Crawford, Fundora? Wouldn't that be...
Yeah, the move in weight is inevitable, but at the same time, you want to do it when he's achieved everything that he can achieve at 147. I've got to be honest, like, being around him and seeing the size of him, I was quite surprised that he makes 147 like he does. Like, the weigh-in this morning, he was 146, and Bozy was like, I actually think he could make 140. I'm like, and he didn't look dry. His face wasn't drawn in the slightest. And that was, when I look at him, he believes he can go up to 168 eventually. So I think you're going to see someone like Jaron Ennis definitely move to 54, definitely move to 60 over time. But I don't like to make the move without clearing up the division. Like, he's won a world championship, but it'd just be a shame if he didn't unify someone of his ability. But for a long time, I felt that, I know everyone's beatable, but I don't know. And I got a bit of criticism yesterday because I said Gervonta loses rounds. Right? He does lose rounds. People said, he only lost 3 rounds to Frank Martin and he only lost 2 rounds to Ryan Garcia. Well, when was the fight over against Garcia? What round was it? 5th round? 7th, right? Okay, Frank Martin, he lost 3 rounds. When was that fight over? 8? Okay, so loses 1 more. It's all square after 8 rounds. So I'm just saying that Shakur Stevenson is a hell of a lot better than Ryan Garcia and Frank Martin.
I'm not sure about it. When you put in the power that Ryan Garcia presents.
Mate, I don't know what you've been smoking. I think I'm very disappointed with your knowledge of boxing. I mean, one, you said that Pacquiao beat Barrios. If you don't think that Shakur Stevenson is on another level to Frank Martin and Ryan Garcia,
I don't know about Ryan Garcia. And Tank's team puts Ryan Garcia up here at this level for.
Of course they does, because they've fought him and beat him.
No, well, they fought him at a weight that they were comfortable fighting.
Mate, honestly, like Shakur Stevenson is on another level to these guys.
All right, I want to talk about Edgar Berlanga.
Yeah.
Now we have a lot of information coming about Canelo possibly fighting Chris Eubank Jr. as a possibility. What if Berlanga does not get the fight? When does he fight a legitimate, actual opponent?
Well, I think he should fight Jaime Munguia.
Well, if Munguia supposedly has an opponent already lined
Who's
up
that?
for September, Avanesyan from Canada.
Fucking hell, that's a load of shit, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, look, for Edgar Berlanga, he's mandatory. He needs a big fight. I think that, you know, if you're looking at the career path of Berlanga, ideally, he would have a Munguia before Canelo. But if you look at Canelo's options right now, I mean, with all due, like, I know Chris Eubank Jr., he's a Brit. That's a stinking fight. Like, he will get absolutely battered, right? Berlanga, at least he's a big 168 pounder that can punch. He's from Puerto Rico. He looks fantastic. He's going to come and have a war with Canelo Alvarez. So commercially, that's the fight that makes sense, whether he's the pick. And when you're in the hat for Canelo Alvarez, that's all you're waiting for, is the phone call. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it comes, sometimes it doesn't. If it comes for Edgar Berlanga, we'll roll the dice, and of course you'll take that fight. If not, he needs a big fight. And you know what you don't want to do is wait too long for Canelo. But if Canelo's talking about fighting September 7th, it's not that far away. So we've had a couple of calls, but I wouldn't say it was close for Edgar Berlanga, but we're waiting and we're ready to sign.
So when do you pivot if you don't
Soon.
get that?
I mean, he's only going to fight once this year. So, you know, you pivot, but you make plans whilst you're waiting. You know, you don't just sit there. And he will fight October, November, and he will have to have a big fight, whether it's Jaime Munguia, whether it's Diego Pacheco, whether it's someone else in that top
You would put
five.
him in the ring with Pacheco.
Of course, I would. I don't care.
Would they take that fight?
It's up to them, isn't it? Listen, there's a perception that, he wouldn't make that fight. Look at my resume. I'm not rolling the dice, am I? The fighters are rolling the dice. I'm just a fan. I want to make great fights, and if I'm looking at it and saying, okay, I mean, what a great fight, Diego Pacheco against Edgar Berlanga. You can't just sit and wait for the phone call for Canelo Alvarez. You've got to prove your worth. It just so happens that he's the mandatory challenger, so he's got the right to fight Canelo Alvarez. And if he doesn't have the right, we're going to want to put him in a fight that makes sense and gets people excited.
All right, and last question. You talk about the long-term deal. Oscar may be using Zepeda as a negotiating tactic,
Yeah.
but your situation with Devon Haney, there's been some back and forth recently, and you know, you say you don't have a deal with him, so you don't feel like you have to do anything in regards to a purse bid. Right. Where is the relationship at with the Haneys at this point?
Always good. Like, you know, I think his lawyer called me the night before the purse bid. The fight that I was interested in was a unification fight with Liam Parro. I asked the lawyer to speak to the WBC, find out if it was possible to do the unification, call me back, and we discussed the purse bid. They never called me back. I'm not going to lose $1 million on a Devin Haney Sandor Martin fight. Fucking hell, what's the point of that? You know, he's got the fluidity of being a free agent, and I've got the fluidity of dealing with him when I want to deal with him, and not losing money if I don't want to lose money on him. And it's a pretty straight relationship, you know, like I'd tell him that to his face. And we've had a great journey together. When he did the George Cambos fight, he had to take that deal because they froze us out so that they had to get him. And he was right taking that deal. When we did the Regis Prograis fight, you know, he didn't want to do a multi-fight deal with us, but he took that fight. So that's okay. But by not doing that multi-fight deal, meant that when purse bids come around for like Sandor Martin, he doesn't have a minimum for us where we would have had to bid to win that fight. So free agency works and it doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? When you're really hot and you're doing big numbers like Canelo Alvarez, free agency is very effective. Do you know what I mean? But if you lose or your stock drops, sometimes you can be left holding your dick.
Part of the game.
Yeah.
Eddie, quick, okay, thank you. Well, this is the last question. Eddie Janabek, unfortunately, just had to pull out of his fight.
Did he?
Yeah, he's hospitalized, rehydration issues.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, any thoughts on that at all?
No. I didn't know that. So is the show still on?
No, Tevin is the main event now against Mauritania. Good fight.
Well, is it?
Yeah, it's a good fighter. Hard tiger. He's in his prime. He needs that name.
Tevin, yeah. Good old Tevin. Oh, that's good news for us because obviously we're going to do a massive number tomorrow night on. Listen, I wish Tevin all the best. I love Tevin. But main event, you know, that I mean, I don't think the Janibek fight would have caused us a problem in terms of audience for Boots, but obviously, you know, wish him all the best.
You just talked about Berlanga possibly fighting Pacheco. You know, obviously Haney fought Prograis recently. Eddie, any response or message to the folks that say that you get your fighters beat? What would you say back to those folks?
Yeah, probably do. Guess what? If you ain't fucking good enough, you ain't going to win. Well, it baffles me the criticism of, Eddie makes tough fights for his fighters. What do you want? What do you want? Shit fights? Like, at the end of the day, if you're in great fights, you're either going to win or your stock's going to go up in defeat, right? Regis Prograis lost to Devon Haney. So what? He got paid a load of money, he comes back, and now he's fighting Jack Catterall in a great fight. So what? Devon Haney lost against Ryan Garcia before we found out that he had performance-enhancing drugs in his body, and it was a no contest. Now he's back, and he's going to be in a big fight. So I want my fighters to be in tough fights because I want to give fans great fights. I want to give the zone great fights. So when you say I get fighters beat, I think the better way to describe it is I put my fighters in tough fights to make them a lot of money and try and see if they're good enough to go to superstardom. And in life and in boxing, the same. If you're not good enough, you will get beat. So don't worry about it. Look at Jaleel Hackett tomorrow night. I can't believe he's taking this fight. And I'm not saying that Pete Dobson is like, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, but he's a good fighter. Like, and Hackett's in his 9th fight. If you're ready to roll the dice, I fucking love you. Because if Hackett goes out there tomorrow night and does a job on him, you guys, the crowd, they're all going to be going crazy. Saying, wow, this kid's the next Haney, the next Tank, the next Boots, you know?
It's a co-main spot too, though. It's massive from there.
Massive. I said to him, are you sure you're ready for this? I said, there's going to be 14,000 people for your fight. And obviously the build-up at the press conference, people loved it. Like, it's great for the fight. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure on Boots. Like, people don't understand. I've made a lot of homecomings lately. Fighters haven't been performing. Subriel Matias against Parro didn't box well in that fight. Everyone was there. He was waving at everyone. Tickets, fucking 9,000 people. Regis, when he boxed before Haney, homecoming in New Orleans, didn't box well. Yeah. So we'll see what Boots can do tomorrow. But if you get it right...
But this has been a common theme throughout the years. Homecoming fights don't particularly work out for the homecoming fighter.
Why?
I don't know. There's a lot of demands, they say, when they're home.
Nah, bullshit. If you're special, you're special. And if you walk out here, Boots is going to walk out here tomorrow night and he's going to go, fuck me. You should be going, this is everything I've ever dreamed of. I'm going to fucking show the world how great I am. If he puts in a performance tomorrow night, this place, the roof's going to come off. And everyone is going to say, he's the man in American boxing.
And on that note?
Just one last one. Noonan boy from Australia.
Yeah.
He just told me to send you a message. He says, for Eddie, my man Noonan boy in Australia reckons Parro versus Cambos is a domestic blockbuster down under. Eddie, is this reality for November?
Okay, so with regards to Liam Parro, we're speaking to various state governments in Australia about making fights. Obviously, there is a value to bringing a big international name and tourism and eyeballs from other markets to Australia. Devon Haney is in the hat for Liam Parro if he wanted that fight. The winner of Regis Prograis against Jack Catterall is in the hat to fight Liam Parro, and George Cambos is also in the hat. When I say the hat, like conversations as to what would work for specific state governments. Obviously in Australia, Cambos against Liam Parro is a big fight. But Devon Haney's been over there twice, beaten Cambos. That's also a big fight for Australia. So the plan is Liam Parro, October, November, December in Australia in a big fight. Could be, tell your boy Nooner boy, could be George Cambos.
There you go. Thank you, Eddie.
Cheers, boys.
Do you think Boots gets it done under 6?
Yes, 4 rounds.
Last question means last
Cheers, mate.
question.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you, man.